What's Loaf on a Stick press?
Okay, Loaf on a Stick press was set up about a year ago as the publishing entity for our radical history group, People's History from Nottingham.
Yeah.
And the idea of the Loaf on a Stick comes from a few historical sources. It was the traditional rallying cry to embark on a food riot. Whenever prices soared on markets, then someone used to take a penny loaf, put it on a stick and carry it over it, and behind that person then a crowd would rally and ransack the stalls. And we stumbled across about this in various sources, and thought it's an unusual and it's interesting and it's a cool symbol, and so we revived it on a May Day demo in Nottingham and have used it ever since. And when we needed a name, then there was one for us.
And what does Loaf on a Stick press publish?
So far we have published 2 pamphlets regarding historical events of Nottingham. One about the so-called reform riots of 1831, in which the castle was burned down. And although this is often referred to, it is never elaborated who the rioters were and why they did it. They are just deemed hooligans, and of course history is always more complex than that. So we published a booklet that looks more into that, and the other booklet is about Nottingham's most famous food riot, which was the so-called Great Cheese Riot, in which, among other things, the then mayor got bowled over by a bouncing and rolling barrel-shaped cheese in one of the side streets of the market square. And we thought that sounds like an interesting story, and then again we looked into the sources and discovered that the real history behind the tale is far more interesting and far more complex than just those headlines suggested. And yeah, that's what we do.
And the Nottingham people's
history.
Yeah. And I noticed history is spelled H-I-S-T-R-E-H.
Yes. I mean, you hear from my accent that I'm not a Nottingham-born one, but someone suggested that in the proper Nottingham accent, you wouldn't say history but history. So kind of we just thought it was entertaining, and so this is what we choose as our logo and as our name.
And how do we, if people want to find out more, how do they get in touch?
The easiest thing is to look on our blog. It's just People's History. So HISTREH history .wordpress.com, or just Google People's History Reform Riots, and sooner or later you will end up on our blog, and then you can get in touch. You can download all our materials from there. You can download all our pamphlets for free from there. So just have a look around.
And when people go to your blog, what would they find?
They will find all the materials we've produced over the years about all the subject matters we've been worked on. So there is pamphlets, there's images, there's scanned sources about such differing subjects as reform riots, cheese riots, the local history of the slave trade, the fight, and also more modern 20th century things. There's a few bits and bobs about the miners' strike, and there's quite a lot of material regarding the fight against the poll tax in the very early 90s, 98, 1990, 91.